You ever feel like you're in a relationship by yourself? That's how it started for me. Not with screaming matches or infidelity. Just silence. Subtle. Chilling. The kind of silence that creeps in between two people who once couldn't keep their hands off each other. And somehow, I still kept hoping it would all come back. My name's Ethan. I work in HVAC in a mid-sized city in Oregon. Nothing fancy, but I make an honest living. I was with Madison for almost 3 years. We met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner. She laughed at something dumb I said, and I was hooked. There was something about her confidence, the way she told stories like everyone in the room owed her their full attention. I liked that. I needed that. I'd always been the quiet, dependable one, and she was all fire and charisma. In the beginning, it worked. She'd text me just to say she missed me. We'd plan weekend trips just for the hell of it. She was affectionate, spontaneous, always touching me, always looking at me like I was the only man in the room. But somewhere between year 2 and 3, something shifted. Not overnight. That's what made it hard to notice at first. It wasn't a sudden drop. It was a slow fade. A gradual erasure of warmth. It began with little things. She started coming home later. "Work's been insane lately," she'd say, kicking off her shoes without looking at me. That was believable. She worked in marketing, and her job had crazy seasons. But then it kept happening. Weeks passed where she'd cancel dinner plans last minute. Always with some reason. A headache, a project deadline, a friend going through a breakup. And I try to be understanding. I brought her food when she skipped meals. I offer back rubs. Suggested a weekend away to decompress. She smiled, said I was sweet, but the spark in her eyes? It was gone. You know what's wild? You can sleep beside someone every night and still feel like you're miles apart. That bed felt colder than a motel room in December. She'd turn her back. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, pretending I wasn't dying a little every time she rolled away without saying goodnight. The physical distance started creeping into everything else. We'd sit on the couch, 2 feet apart, but she'd be glued to her phone. I try starting conversations, small stuff like, "How was your day?" Or, "Did you see that news about that crazy fire downtown?" She'd nod, barely look up. Or worse, give me a one-word answer and then go right back to scrolling. I started to feel invisible in my own home. Like a placeholder. Like a lamp or a rug. Something you walk past every day, but don't really notice unless it's broken. And still, I stayed. I made excuses for her. She's just overwhelmed. She's going through something. She'll come around. I bent over backwards trying to reconnect. Took her out to her favorite Mexican spot. She picked at her food and spent half the night texting. I surprised her with tickets to a jazz show, something she used to beg to go to. She said she was too tired. Even in bed, when I'd reach out just to hold her, she'd freeze up like I was a stranger. Whisper, "Not tonight," like I was asking for something dirty instead of just wanting to feel her heartbeat. But when her phone buzzed, she'd jump. When her friends called, she lit up. She'd spend hours getting ready to meet them. Hair perfect, perfume on point, full of life. But with me, baggy sweatpants, silence, cold shoulders. I remember one Thursday night, I'd cooked dinner. Chicken Alfredo, her favorite. Set the table. Lit candles. Just wanted a moment for us. She walked in, looked at the setup, and her face dropped. "Oh, I already ate. Laura and I grabbed sushi after work." Sorry. She didn't even offer to sit with me while I ate. Just went to the bedroom and closed the door. That night, I didn't touch my plate. I just sat there staring at the flickering candles, wondering when I'd become so easy to disregard. And you want to know the worst part? I still tried the next day. I still kissed her cheek when she left. Still texted her drive safe when she went out. Still asked if she wanted anything from the grocery store. Because I was hoping, praying, that all this was temporary. That maybe she'd wake up one day, remember how good we had it, and come back to me. But love isn't a one-man job. And you can't drag someone back to a relationship they've already left emotionally. Things got worse. She started saying things like, "You're too sensitive lately. Why are you always so moody? Maybe you need to find a hobby or something." She made me feel like I was the problem. Like asking for affection, attention, conversation was too much. Like I was needy, clingy, when all I wanted was to not feel so damn alone with someone who claimed to love me. Then came the moment that snapped it all for me. I was cleaning the apartment one Saturday. She was out, said she had errands. Her iPad was on the table. It buzzed. Normally I wouldn't snoop, but curiosity's a dangerous thing when your heart's been breaking slowly. It was a message from someone named Tyler, and it wasn't sexual or scandalous, not yet, but it was playful, flirty. She'd sent him a selfie with a caption, "Guess who's stuck grocery shopping instead of doing something fun with you today?" He replied, "Bet you'd look better without the card in the way." And she sent a winking emoji. That was enough. Not because she cheated, but because that version of her, that light, that playfulness, hadn't existed with me in over a year. She still had it in her. She just didn't want to give it to me anymore. I put the iPad down, sat on the couch, and just breathed. Not angry, not even heartbroken at that point. Just tired, bone-deep tired. That night, I didn't say anything. I didn't scream, didn't confront. I just looked at her when she walked in, kissed her cheek, and smiled. Not because I believed in us anymore, but because I had finally let go inside. She didn't notice. And honestly, that was the clearest answer of all. That's how it starts, man. Not with cheating, not with drama, but with excuses, distance, the kind of neglect that feels polite until you realize you're the only one still hoping. And when someone keeps giving you reasons why they can't love you, eventually you start believing them. I stayed longer than I should have, held on tighter than I needed to. But now I know better. And sometimes the loudest goodbye is the one where you say nothing. You just stop showing up. Because love isn't about sticking around for someone who treats your heart like background noise. Sometimes clarity doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from silence. From just sitting still long enough to see the truth that's been there all along. After that night with the iPad, something changed inside me. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in that subtle, irreversible kind of shift that only happens when you're finally done. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I didn't even cry. I just stopped trying. It's a strange kind of peace when you realize someone has already left you emotionally, and you no longer feel the urge to chase them. I stopped waiting for her to ask how my day was. I stopped hoping she'd reach for my hand while we watched TV. I let go of the little fantasies I had about fixing us. I let go of the hope that she'd wake up and remember how good we used to be. And when you stop chasing, you start seeing. Really seeing. Every conversation became a performance. I'd ask her things out of habit, and she'd answer like she was checking a box. We'd go days without physical affection. No kisses on the forehead. No hugs from behind. She stopped calling me babe. Started calling me by my name again. It's wild how that one switch from babe to Ethan felt like a death sentence. I watched her walk around the apartment like I wasn't there. She'd play music while cooking, something upbeat, something she'd never once asked me to dance to anymore. I remember hearing her laugh at her phone, this soft, flirty little giggle. I hadn't heard her laugh like that with me in almost a year, so I started collecting the truth piece by piece. One morning, I woke up early and just watched her get ready for work. Hair straightener sizzling, perfume cloud floating in the air. She checked herself twice in the mirror. Not for me, not for us, but for whatever version of life she was living outside our walls. She walked past me without a word. No kiss, no eye contact, just grabbed her bag and left. And I sat there in bed still, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'd finally caught up to the reality I'd been running from. This wasn't a rough patch. This wasn't a low season. This was a breakup that had already happened. I just never gotten the memo. So I did something I hadn't done in months. I made a plan, not to fix us, to leave. I didn't do it out of spite. I wasn't seeking revenge. I just knew I deserved better than being tolerated in my own relationship. I pulled back quietly. I stopped initiating texts during the day. Stopped offering to make dinner. Didn't bring home flowers from Trader Joe's like I used to. Didn't ask about her friends or meetings or marketing campaigns I used to pretend to care about. I created space, not because I wanted her to chase me, but because I needed room to breathe. And you know what? She didn't notice. That silence, that gap I left, it wasn't filled. She didn't ask where I was emotionally. Didn't question the coldness in my voice. She just accepted it. Maybe she even preferred it. One Friday, I came home from work early. She wasn't there. No note, no heads up. I ordered takeout, ate alone. She walked in around 10 p.m., dressed to kill. High heels, red lipstick, hair curled. Said she'd been at a networking thing. Didn't mention where. Didn't ask if I wanted anything. Didn't care that I looked right through her. That night, while she showered, I opened my laptop and started searching for apartments. One bedrooms, near my job. Nothing flashy, just something mine. I created a new bank account, changed the password on my Venmo, started separating bills. It felt like cleaning up after a flood. Slow, tedious, painful, but necessary. And still, she didn't notice. Days turned into weeks. We became roommates, ghosts passing each other in hallways. She stayed out later. I started hitting the gym after work. Not to get her attention, but to reclaim pieces of myself I'd given away. One night, I came home around 9 p.m. She was on the balcony, smoking, something she never did when we were close. She looked surprised to see me, like I was an intruder in her solitude. "You're home late," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "I've been working on some things." She nodded, took a drag, and looked away. That was the most we spoke that week. I'd finally accepted the truth. I was mourning a relationship she had already buried. And for the first time, I wasn't angry about it. I was just done being the only one grieving. Here's where things got real. One evening, she walked into the living room while I was packing a small box. Just books, chargers, some framed photos of my late grandfather. She looked at me, confused. "What are you doing?" I stood up calmly. "Moving out." She blinked, stunned. "Wait, what?" "I found a place," I said. "I'm leaving Saturday." A full 10 seconds passed before she spoke. "Is this about us?" I almost laughed. "What us?" "Madison. We haven't had in U.S. in months." Her eyes filled with tears, not loud sobs, but the quiet kind. The kind you cry when you realize you weren't paying attention and now it's too late. "I didn't think you'd actually leave," she said. I nodded. "I know. That's part of the problem." She sat down on the couch, wrapped in her own silence. And I didn't comfort her, because for the first time in years, I was finally comforting myself. Over the next 2 days, I packed my things in silence. No big fight, no apology, just the sound of drawers closing and a relationship being folded away like old shirts. On Saturday, I handed her a spare key and said, "Keep it. You'll need it more than I will." She didn't speak, just stood at the door as I walked away. That first night in my new place, I slept on a mattress on the floor. No curtains, just a lamp and a couple boxes. But I slept better than I had in a year. No tension, no cold shoulder, just peace. Sometimes the greatest act of clarity is not some big realization. It's the quiet exit from something that's already over. I didn't leave with rage. I left with awareness. I left because the version of me who stayed in that relationship wasn't me anymore. And I owed it to myself to find him again. Some people don't realize what they had until your silence becomes louder than all the words you used to beg with. When I left, I didn't leave in anger. I didn't slam doors. I didn't send long paragraphs explaining how much it hurt. I simply left. It was the quietest decision I've ever made and the most powerful one. And I think that's what shook her. The first day in my new apartment was surreal. I sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes, eating leftover Chinese straight out of the container. The walls were bare. No scent of her perfume lingering in the bathroom. No sound of heels on hardwood. Just me. Alone. But for the first time in months, I wasn't lonely. I was free. 2 days passed without a word. And then came the first text. "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply. You see, when I was with her, I used to drop everything when she called. I'd pull over on highways to answer her texts. I'd cancel plans just to stay in with her. I gave her my presence like it was oxygen. But now she was learning how it felt to breathe without it. The texts kept coming. "I didn't think you were serious. Are you okay? Please don't shut me out like this." Funny how silence speaks so loud once you stop using your voice to beg for love. She called once. I didn't answer. Then again, 11:52 p.m. on a Thursday. I let it ring. That same night, she sent a voice message. Hesitant, shaky. You could hear in her tone that small panic that creeps in when someone realizes they're not in control anymore. "Ethan, I didn't know you were that unhappy." I guess I've just been distracted, but I never meant to hurt you. I just miss you now, and I don't know what to do." I listened to the whole thing without feeling a single tear roll down my face. Not because I was cold, but because I'd already cried everything I had the night she rolled away from me in bed without a word. She was late. Too late. In the weeks that followed, she reached out more. Photos of old memories. Screenshots of songs we used to dance to. Voicemails asking if I could meet her for coffee. But the truth is, by the time she wanted me back, I had already started rebuilding myself without her. I got a gym membership. Not for revenge, for rhythm. I started waking up early again. No more snoozing through mornings full of dread. I joined a local softball league, something I always wanted to do, but never had time for because I was always too busy fixing a relationship that wasn't mine alone to fix. I was lighter, not in weight, but in spirit. I wasn't dragging her coldness behind me like a bag of bricks anymore. One night, about a month after I moved out, she showed up outside my place. I was coming back from a gym. My hair still damp, earbuds in, heart rate still coming down from the jog. And there she was leaning on her car, arms crossed, eyes red. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but emotionally. Like someone who finally realized they weren't the center of your world anymore. She tried to smile. "Hey," she said softly. "You look good." I nodded. "Thanks." There was a long pause. You could hear the crickets in the parking lot. She took a step closer. "Can we talk? Please." I looked at her. Not with bitterness. Not with love either. Just with peace. "I don't think there's anything left to say." Her voice cracked. "I miss you, Ethan." "I know," I said. She blinked. "That's it." I took a deep breath. "Madison, I spent months trying to get you to care. You brushed me off. You made me feel like I was too much, too sensitive, too demanding. And now that I'm gone, I'm suddenly worth chasing." Tears welled up in her eyes. I was confused. I didn't know how distant I'd become. "I thought you'd always be there." There it was. That sentence. "I thought you'd always be there." That was the problem. She confused my loyalty with weakness. My patience with blindness. My love with dependency. I shook my head. I loved you hard. I stayed longer than I should have. I gave you version after version of myself, hoping one would be enough. But I lost myself in the process. And I had to leave to find him again. She reached out, touched my arm gently. "Isn't there any chance?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "No, because the version of me that would have said yes doesn't exist anymore." She nodded slowly, let go of my arm, backed away like a ghost, finally realizing it was no longer welcome in the living world. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know," I replied. "But sorry doesn't reverse damage. It just acknowledges it." She got in her car and drove off. And I stood there, breathing in the night air like it was my first breath in years. In the months that followed, she kept trying. Emails, mutual friends accidentally mentioning her. But I never looked back. I didn't do it out of pride. I did out of survival. When someone teaches you how small you can feel, you don't return just because they suddenly remember your worth. You don't go back to a place that made you question your own value. These days, I live quieter, calmer. I read more, cook better, sleep deeper. Sometimes I walk by the restaurant where I once waited 2 hours for her to show up on our anniversary and smile, not because I miss her, but because I don't. And every now and then, I get a message from her, something vague. "I hope you're well," or "I saw this and thought of you." But I never reply, because my silence isn't out of spite. It's my boundary. She had every opportunity to choose me when it mattered. Now, she gets to live with the reality I gave her, my absence. Because presence is a gift, and I don't give mine to those who only noticed it when it disappeared.